Hello and welcome to another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making of Kaleidoscope. I'm writer, director, producer Paige Feldman. And this week, as every week, I'm taking you inside my process of making my debut feature film. We're going from idea to premiere in real time. One of the most difficult decisions a creator has to make over the course of their career is figuring out when a project isn't working and when to put it on the shelf, whether it's for a few months, a few years, or forever, so that they can get some space and distance from it and find a way to make it exactly the thing they want it to be. And that crossroads is where I am with Kaleidoscope. In honor of this, I'm wearing my Thanos blowing bubbles shirt because I'm going to snap it half out of existence, up onto the shelf, potentially to come back, but who knows when. I just can't make it work right now. However, this is not the end for my journey here on YouTube. I will continue to document the making of my debut film as a writer-director. It's just that debut feature is going to be a different one than I initially thought when I started this series. So for the last time, at least for a while, let's roll these particular titles, and when we get back, I'll tell you why I've decided to snap Kaleidoscope up onto the shelf, and also, and most excitingly, a little bit about the new feature that I have on my computer right now. Ever since I started typing in changes of this revision, or this first revision, I had a feeling that something was wrong with the script. I didn't know what it was. And I kept typing in changes and thinking, all right, I've made it shorter, I've made it tighter, maybe there's something in this story that I can see now, that I can pinpoint, a thing that I know that I need to cut or need to build on that's going to get me to where I want to be. Except I never found that. And I was stuck these past couple of weeks while I was taking a break from the story, from the script. I was trying to see if I could get some clarity just by having a couple weeks of space. And I didn't until last week, because the video that I made last week was kind of revelatory for me, actually. I was talking about getting over the emotional hurdles of cutting pages and the things that I do to make it so that I don't get all caught up in loving my writing so much that I'm not doing things that serve the story. And the last tip that I shared, the thing that's the most crucial, I think, about the rewriting process is about making sure that everything that's in the script is centered around the why, the theme, the thing you want to communicate. And for Kaleidoscope, the thing I want to communicate is that it doesn't matter if you can go back and change the past, because things that have happened in the past have already changed you. I want to explore this idea through the lens of two people whose lives were changed for the worse in some way after a tragic event, or maybe even an event that didn't mean anything really to anybody else except for them. And they get the chance to go back into the past before that event happened and to try to prevent it. But even when they try to prevent it, their real world lives don't change. Through the course of bonding with each other, learning more about each other, and coming to terms with the fact that they can't change the past, they realize that the only way to have their lives be what they want them to be is to move forward. Accept that the thing that happened, the terrible event, that tragedy, is the reason they are who they are. They can only move forward, and that they choose to move forward together. So that's the story that I want to tell with Kaleidoscope. That is my why, that is my theme. And I want you to notice the things that I didn't say when I'm talking about my why and my theme statement. It's things like an ex-boyfriend who gets injured in a car accident, or being a lawyer versus being a photographer, being a stand-up comedian, having a famous brother, there being a Hollywood party that the time loop is centered around. None of the intricate plot details that I spent months obsessing over and thinking about and ideating, except for the time loop, none of those are part of the why. So all those ideas, all those details, they are things that I thought of over however long, 7 years at this point, over 7 years that I've spent ideating and writing and rewriting and finding different forms and watching the story evolve. All of these details are things that have helped me take Kaleidoscope to where it is now and help me to really find this why and this theme. But they themselves aren't intrinsic or integral to the story. They're just details that I've held on to and that feel essential to me, to the story, because those are the ideas that I thought of. And so they must be important. Except at this point, they are the things that I'm focusing on when I'm writing and rewriting, to the point where I can't find the why in the story anymore. I know what the why is in my heart, but when I'm reading the script, it's just so bogged down in all of these little interpersonal conflicts that don't quite all add up to something larger than the sum of its parts. There are a lot of ideas in this. I have thrown the kitchen sink into the script, and I don't know how to take it out and assemble it into something better. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss here. There are too many little plot ideas that have taken over and drowned my why beyond recognition. So I need some time and some distance to figure out how to handle this. I have two sets of warring instincts here. My first set says, listen, start over with everything except for that why, that theme, gone. Create a completely different story that doesn't have any of the elements that you've ever thought of for this script, because you're too close to them, and if you have one of them, you're going to need to have the other 17. So start at the beginning, go back to the beginning, re-outline, rewrite it, a completely new story based on the same why. The other set of instincts over here is saying, yeah, that might work, but also there's a lot of things here that you love that could help elucidate this theme. Like, panic attacks aren't part of that theme statement, but the panic attacks that Jonah gets in this script, that element is really important to me, showing a mental health journey that reflects my own. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to use a cliche, or is it an idiom, or is it both? I don't want to throw the good out with the bad just because there are some things that aren't working. I want to use a strainer. But then again, how do I situate Jonah and Lee in a world where Devin doesn't exist? Where the tragedy wasn't a car accident, where Lee isn't a lawyer or a photographer, maybe. I don't know if I can separate these good things, like Zach, like the panic attacks, like Lee's journey maybe away from law, from the other parts of the script that aren't quite falling into place. And so I need some time and distance to figure out how to best proceed. But I don't really have a lot of time. I mean, like, I'm not gonna like die really soon or anything. I'm not planning on it, knock on wood. I'm 37 years old and I want to make my living as a filmmaker. I can't wait for however long this is gonna take, 3, 4, 5 years to make my debut feature as a writer-director. I can't wait for Kaleidoscope to be perfect before I start making a feature film. So I need to move forward with a different project. And I know that Kaleidoscope will be here with me in 3, 4, 5 years, whenever I am ready to dig back in and find a way to let that theme really sing. Because this first movie that I'm going to make, it won't be my last. I can guarantee that. I am too stubborn to be a one-film woman. So right now, I need to move forward with something different. Something simpler, something that doesn't have all of the emotional baggage and years of development and years of trying to find the best way to tell that story. I just need to start with a theme, with a why, and push myself forward. And I actually have that. In fact, I talked about it a few weeks ago when I said there was another idea that was seducing me. So 2 months ago, I was invited by a production company to pitch them some ideas for a mandate they were looking to fill. They had a specific genre of film they wanted to make, and they gave me some general guidelines, and I created about 7 to 10 pitches for them. And a lot of them were actually these brain dump ideas that I've had. And then a couple of them were ones that I created out of thin air to try to meet the mandate, to try to up my chances of being able to actually write something for hire for this company. After I pitched, they said, these are really interesting. This one, we have something already similar. This one's not quite right. Maybe you could redo this one. Went through this whole process. They ultimately passed on all of them, which it sucks, but that's the business. And I figured that after they passed on them, the ideas that I created just for this mandate they'd be gone, they'd be dead. Maybe I'd resurrect them if they fit some other pitch for some other time. But this one that I was probably the least excited about when I wrote it has been calling me. So the story itself isn't complete at all, but there is a full arc there because I had to create one for the pitch. I like the characters' names, there's room for humor in it, and romance, because, it's me, romantic comedy. And unlike Kaleidoscope, it is very contained and grounded and set in the real world. So that's what I'm working on now. That's gonna be my debut feature. It is contained rom-com because I am modeling all of this, production-wise and writing-wise, on a contained horror film. Because it's basically 2 people in one house and the surrounding environs, and that's about it. And I think it works really well because romantic comedies are all about 2 people connecting with each other, and it doesn't matter where they do it. It's just about the relationship that's built. And because when I was a development executive, I worked on so much contained horror, I have a sense of how to finance and produce this kind of movie based on my past work. It feels beschert, meant to be. And not only that, the writing of this script has been so easy. It feels like this story's been living inside me, and I didn't even know it. And now I've finally given it an outlet, and just when I'm writing, it's just flowing and coming. And I have answers to questions that as soon as I ask them, it is a pleasure to write currently, which is not always the case. But I love writing anyway because it's storytelling, but this is just flowing. Maybe one of the reasons it's so easy is because I don't have any baggage attached to this idea. This was an idea that I created to pitch to someone in hopes of selling the pitch, writing it, and giving it over to their creative control. And now that it's in mine, this idea can bloom and blossom there's no limits that I've set on it, no things it has to be. It just is itself. And maybe another reason that it's so easy is that I outlined based on a why. I actually brainstormed a why, and then I created an outline based on that. And the why for this project, for the contained rom-com, is not the same why as Kaleidoscope. That why belongs to Kaleidoscope. This why is different. The question that I want to explore is all about ritual. And actually, I have it written down, so I'm gonna read it, because that's important. So in this contained rom-com, I'm asking, what is the value of ritual? What is the value of sameness? When do you decide to make a change? And how do you take care of yourself without losing focus on the important things and people in your life? So it's the idea of ritual versus self, of finding meaning in tradition and group activities versus doing the things that have value to you. But where is the balance of selflessness versus selfishness? How do you tell the difference between something that has value to you, a ritual? Does it have value to you because there is a meaning imbued in it? Or is it valuable? Not really, but it's just the way things have always been done. Where is that distinction? So obviously my theme's not as fleshed out as Kaleidoscope's is, but I've been working on Kaleidoscopes for 7 years, and this I've been working on for relatively 7 minutes, maybe 7 weeks max. And right now I'm finished with Act 1 of this script, and we're on page 30. Hooray! And I write long, so this is gonna be a reasonably sized script. Like I said, part of the reason is that I don't have any baggage on this, so I'm not looking to include everything in its mother into this script, but also I started my outline from theme. That theme about ritual, I kept that in the forefront of my mind every step of the way as I was brainstorming plot and conflict and character, all of that goodness. And I think that really helps to streamline and focus my script before I've even started writing. So how did I outline starting with theme and using that why as my lodestar? Well, come back next week and I will tell you all about it on a series that's no longer the Making of Kaleidoscope, but is definitely part of this YouTube channel, Cake Fight Presents. Bye. Thank you so much for watching.